وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وسدد لساني واهد قلبي وافعل كذلك بأحبابي أبدا وارزقنا كمال فتوح العارفين والفقه في الدين مع كمال الإخلاص واليقين والعافية والغنى والنصر والحفظ والنفع والانتفاع وخيرة الدارين وعلوم الأولين والآخرين آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. We're continuing with our class today, and we are right now at Saum. We're at fasting, I think, right? Because we have finished the last, correct? We have finished about the Salat, right? So we finished the entire chapter on Salat, and we are on the chapter of Saum, right? On fasting. Tamam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And the last lesson, we actually finished quite a bit of Saum. Right? We already finished because it's a very short chapter, right? And the Sheikh doesn't really go into so much detail because it's still a first level beginner's book lah. Right? In Shafi'i fiqh. Right? So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Babu Saum. وأما الصوم وهو سادس أركان الإسلام فهو إمساك معروف على وجه مخصوص ومنه النية لكل يوم وتبييتها من الليل والإمساك عن المفطرات من الطعام والشراب والجماع والاستمناء بمباشرة والاستقاءة بالاختيار. So fasting, so the third pillar of Islam, it is the well-known abstinence, but with certain special characteristics. Amongst them are making daily intention during the preceding night and abandoning all things which break the fast, including food, drink, sexual intercourse, masturbation, and self-induced vomiting. So last week we mentioned, we went through all this. We went through the definition of Saum. It's not this document, but it's another document. So my document here in this computer is not written, but I know last week I wrote down all the definitions and everything about Saum. Saum is imsak, which means to withhold yourself. And it is the third pillar of Islam. Right? It is to abstain from certain things from the break of dawn till the setting of the sun. Right. So and of the things that is haram for a person to do while they are fasting, what they are supposed to abstain from, right, would be of course we know eating and drinking, right? And last week I mentioned about of course, if someone were to eat or drink forgetfully, then it will not nullify their Saum. Their fasting is still counted, and they don't have to make up that day. In fact, right? There's no need to make up that day whereby they forgot and they ate or they drank. To just go a little bit backwards, like about the intentions, we mentioned that if in the Shafi'i mazhab, right, for all compulsory fastings, right, for all wajib fastings, right, you need to make the intentions in the night. Okay, for all wajib fastings, you need to make the intentions in the night, right? So night, so intentions in the night, and then meaning between the sunset and the break of dawn, before azan for subuh. And if, let's say in Ramadan, a person were to forget to do the intentions in the night, if someone were to forget, in the Shafi'i mazhab, what the person needs to do is to continue the imsak. That means as if he is fasting. And then after Ramadan to make up the fast. That is in the Shafi'i mazhab. Of course, there is another mazhab, there's a Maliki mazhab that says that you can intend for the entire Ramadan on the first of Ramadan. Right? So the first of Ramadan, you can intend the entire month of Ramadan, you want to fast, right? So if you want to just play safe, you do the intention first, the first of Ramadan, you intend the entire of Ramadan. Then and try your best not to, but if you forgot the intention in one of the nights of Ramadan, then just to play safe, you do a makeup fast, right? And it's okay because we do a lot of fast through a year anyway, right? So you might as well just make it in the makeup fast. Yeah, right. So inshallah, if you want to, unless you want to follow the ruling of Imam Malik, the Maliki mazhab. All right. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad Okay, so and we also spoke about phlegm and mucus, right? So the mucus from the nose, if it goes backwards through the nasal canal, right? Backwards in the nose through the nasal canal, right? Then that would not break the fast. Can you all hear me? Because there's the mosquito person that's on the sound. The mosquito gas man. I'm not sure you can hear the background, but it's very noisy at my house. I think okay lah. Can you hear, right? Can you hear? Okay. Or is it very noisy? Okay. Means the mic is good lah. It's a good mic. Because it's so noisy in my room and I can't even hear myself. Okay, inshallah. Alright. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, right. So we mentioned about that about mucus and about phlegm, and also at which point must you throw out the phlegm, right? So if the phlegm were to fall into the tongue, right? If you were to fall onto your tongue, then that kind of phlegm you have to throw it out, right? But if the phlegm is stuck in your throat, right, you don't have to throw it out, but you can actually swallow it back in. Right? So the ruling is that it comes onto the cuff area. You know what is cuff? Right, the letter cuff. So you say ka, right? You say ka, right? So ka ki ku, right? Ka. Right, so ka, if the phlegm comes up to the cuff area of your tongue, and then you need to throw it out. If it comes to the cough area, qaw is a bit behind, kan? Qaw, qaw. If you do qaw properly, you know where is the qaw, is a bit behind. For the qaw area, you don't have to take it out. Cuff area, you must take it out. So of course, if it comes to the ain and the ha, part of your throat, and this is all I'm talking about tajweed. So tajweed, if you know where all these letters are coming out from, so and ha is the middle of your throat. Is the middle of your throat. Of course, you don't have to throw it out. You can just swallow it back in. If it comes at the ha and the ra, also don't have to throw it out. You can actually swallow it back in. Because it's not out unless you are the one who pulled it out. So you put in effort to try and it out. Then if you do that, then now you must take it out. If you are fasting, okay. But if they say you were coughing, and it just came up to like the jaw area, and if it's there, you don't have to put it out. Okay, so you see where it is there. So it's on your tongue. It comes up onto your tongue. Okay, so we've covered that part also, and we covered also about basically anything that enters into an opening, right? A natural opening on the body, right? So our eyes are not counted as openings. Our eyes are not counted as openings because there's an eyeball over there, right? So it's basically a closed opening. So you call our eyes a closed opening, which is why also injections, and they don't nullify the fast, because injections, they're not openings unless, like some scholars say, that if they are for nutrition, like drips, with glucose solution, right? Drips with glucose solution, they are nutrition, right? So then that would nullify the fast, right? And we went through all this last weekend. And then sexual intercourse, of course, just with the penetration itself, would nullify the fast of a person, right? Masturbation, it means to try and get a person to let out money, right? That is whether or not there is any intercourse. So even if it's someone on by themselves, so if someone does something to themselves to bring themselves into a sexual high, right, and then they let out money, right, from themselves, that will nullify their fast. However, if they were to go into a sexual high not on purpose, like for example, while they were sleeping and they dreamt, right, had a wet dream, that will not nullify the fast. Right? But when they wake up, all they have to do is take the full bath from janaba. Right? But they will not nullify the fast. Why? Because it is not on purpose. Right? So it's not on purpose. Whatever is not on purpose will not nullify the fast. Self-induced vomiting is okay. For self-induced vomiting, it is to poke, right, something into the mouth to force vomit. Right? So force vomit, even if you don't swallow anything at all, right, but you're force vomiting yourself, right, that would nullify the fast, whether or not you swallow anything. Whereas if you were to vomit naturally because you're sick, right, and you vomit naturally, right, it will only nullify your fast if you swallow back the vomit. So if you swallow back the vomit, then it will nullify your fast. So just be very careful, especially like if sahur and you eat a lot, then like after sahur eat so much, and after that pray subuh. So when you pray subuh, you ruku and you sujud, and then sometimes it can cause for like the food to come back up. to regurgitate up into your mouth, and then you swallow it back, and you would nullify your fast. Okay. So this book, because it follows a lot very closely to Imam Ghazali's text, right? Right, so he mentions the deeper meaning of fasting that we see here. Right, so min tamami sawm, and of what perfects a person's fast, kafful jawarihi amma yakrahuhu Allah ta'ala min al-a'dha'i as-sab'ati allati ذكرها. ففي الحديث خمس يفطرن الصائم: الكذب والغيبة والنميمة واليمين الكاذبة والنظر بشهوة. I think we mentioned this last week also the same time. Right, so among the things which perfect the fast of a person is refraining of his limbs. It means, because fast means imsak, means to hold back. Right, so you hold back your limbs from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates. Right, so and your 7 limbs. And the 7 limbs that needs to be restrained will be discussed later. This will be in the same book. And in Surah Jami'ah, we'll speak about the 7 limbs. Right? But in a hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned 5 things will nullify the act of a person's fasting. So it's not that the fast is nullified in the sense whereby the batal the fast, you can just go and eat. No, it's not that. But it means that the reward of the fast is null, and the reward of the fast becomes 0, becomes null. Right? So if the reward of the fast becomes null, then then the whole fast is for nothing. Subhanallah. As in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were 2 women who would spend the day backbiting other people, and then when they were fasting on that day, and then so they complained of having really bad stomach ache. So when they were brought to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah said to the 2 of them, vomit. They brought a bucket in front of them, and so the 2 of them vomit, right? And then they said, how can we vomit, Ya Rasulullah? Right? We have been fasting the entire day. And the Rasulullah said to them again, vomit. And so they forced themselves to vomit, and they were shocked, right, to see that one of them, she filled up half the bucket of meat and blood coming out of her, and then the other one filled up the rest of the bucket with meat and blood coming out of her. And this is a mu'jiza of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to show something that in it's not a literal meaning, right, but it is figurative, that when you backbite someone, you are basically eating their flesh. Right? As in the Quran, Allah says that those who backbite, they are eating the flesh of their brother. Right? So, and here it manifested physically. Right? There was a physical manifestation of this, and they were shocked. And the Rasulullah said that these 2 have been fasting on what Allah has made halal, meaning food and drink, but they have been breaking their fast on what Allah has made haram, right? Meaning backbiting and slander. Right? So to go through each and every one of them, right? The first one, al-kadhib. Al-kadhib is lying. So lying is to say something that is not as what happened. There is a definition of lying, to say something as what, not as how it happened. That is lying, and knowingly do so. To knowingly do so, to say something not as how it happened, and to knowingly do so. Backbiting is to speak about your Muslim brother in a way whereby he dislikes, right? And it is truthful. Right? It is truthful. Backbiting is truthful. But you say about him in something that he does not like. As for example, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidah Aisha, there was one time whereby she gestured that Sayyidah Sophia, the other wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was very short. Right? So she kind of like, just with a gesture with her hand, right, showing that Sophia was short. Right? And Rasulullah said to her, that word that you said, and she didn't even say anything, just used her hands to do it, to do a motion. Right? That he said, that word that you said, if it was mixed with the oceans of this dunya, it would have turned the oceans black. Right? Meaning that is called backbiting. You call someone short, you call someone this, call someone that. In a way, they just dislike. So it's on the condition that they dislike it. Right? So, or even if you don't know if you like it or dislike it, then don't do it. Right? So if they dislike, if you know that if you were to call them, short, or you to call them a fat, or you were to call them whatever like you want to call people, that if you know you don't like it, then that falls as backbiting. It will fall as backbiting. So to stay away from it. So it might not necessarily be something that is haram, right, but something that is just natural for people, right? So that maybe someone's way of speech, or someone's way of walking, or someone's life, People comment on other people's marriages, or people's lives. So all backbiting, all backbiting, talking about other people, and what is none of your business. I talk about. It's all backbiting, and it's all of the major sins. Is worse. Is said to be worse than 70 zina, backbiting. Okay, namima. Right, namima is not really slander, but it's more of to spread stories between people to make them fight. Right, so it is. I would say is tail bearing. Right, tail bearing. Right, so you spread news between people to make them fight. All right. Okay, and then false oath, take an oath that is false, and it's a major sin. It's one of the major sins, to take an oath by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the oath, and then to lie, right, about it. So even if it's not by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just take an oath. I swear that this thing happened, for example. Take an oath in that way and it didn't happen, then that is called that is one of the major sins. And to look at something with desire, and that will all nullify the reward of the fasts. Okay, it will nullify the reward of the fast. And among the things which perfect the fast are hastening to break the fast, final food, and not eating a great deal. Right, so of the sunnahs of fasting, okay, of the sunnahs of fasting is to rush to break the fast with halal food and not to eat so much. Right, that is of the sunnahs of fasting. It means to hasten your iftar. To hasten your iftar is the sunnahs of fasting. Okay. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay. So when it comes to fasting also, besides Ramadan, right, there is other times whereby it is sunnah for a person to fast. Right, and all the forms of sunnah fasting. That's the next one. Right. So and it is good to fast often, especially on the days that Islam has considered to be special. And Allah knows best, and success is from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so min tamam as-sawm تحري الإفطار على حلال وعدم الاستكثار من الأكل وينبغي الاستكثار من الصوم لا سيما الأيام الفاضلة في الشرع والله أعلم وبالله توفيق. Right, so it right, so it is of the profession of our fasting, right, do it iftar as soon as you can. And in fact, as soon as you can means once you are certain that the time of iftar has come in. So for as long as you're not certain, you cannot iftar. Right? Until you are certain that it has come in, then you can iftar. And also to delay the sahur. The sahur should be delayed maybe about an hour before subuh, or an hour and a half before subuh, depending on how long you take to eat lah. And of course, this is sunnah of imsak, 15 minutes before the azan of subuh, just to play safe. And some scholars say even half an hour before adhan subuh, right, just to play safe. Right, so just try your best to guard over your fasting. So maybe half an hour before subuh, right, just to imsak, and then maybe you leave your last few rak'ahs of witr to do at that time. Right, so that half an hour before subuh, so you like 3 more rak'ahs of witr to do. Right, you can do it at that time before the azan of subuh. And so you make sure, so as to ensure that you actually do the imsak. Right, sunnah to do the imsak before azan of subuh. Right, mashallah, it's the day I saw this kind of videos that they put online, right, whereby there were people who were saying that to debunking the myths around Ramadan. And one of the things that they so-called were debunking was the sunnah of imsak, which is not, it's not a myth at all, right? It's a sunnah. And the Sahaba used to say that they would stop eating, before Bilal would give the azan, they would stop eating and be able to recite 50 ayat between the time they stopped eating and the time the azan was called. Which means that 50 ayat is about 15 minutes lah, around there. Right, so they actually stop eating 15 minutes before the azan was called. Mashallah. Right? So it's really it's unfortunate in our time that people don't really care about all these sunnahs anymore, and they don't actually perform the imsak, but they will drink until the last minute before the azan, and then they'll eat something a last minute before azan, or some people even they will eat beyond the azan, well, because they're still eating and already azan and they continue eating, and their fasting is not valid, nullified. Subhanallah. Of the sunnah days to fast, right here, the sunnah days to fast, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Um, and this include the 10 days of Muharram, the 6 days, the 10 days, the 10th of Muharram, and also 10 days of Muharram. The 10th of Muharram itself, to be paired together the 9th and 11th. So Ashura. 10th of Muharram is Ashura. You should pair it together with 9th and 11th of Muharram. The 6 days of Shawwal, you should start doing this right after the 1st of Shawwal if you can. On the 2nd to the 7th of Shawwal, do the 6 days of Shawwal straight. And then the 9th of Zulhijjah, and in fact the first 9 days of Zulhijjah, and it's also meritorious to fast on Mondays and Thursdays, and on the 3 meal days of the lunar month that just passed us by for Rajab. The three white nights of Rajab was on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just passed us by. And now we are on the second half of Rajab so far, mashallah, and coming towards Sha'ban and coming towards Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us in Rajab and Sha'ban and allow us to reach Ramadan. Ramadan. Okay, alhamdulillah. Are there any questions on Saum, on fasting? Any questions on fasting? Okay, there are no questions on fasting. If there's no questions on fasting, I will go on to zakat. Okay, so after zakat, in this book we have zakat. Don't think they have Hajj and Umrah. Or they have Hajj. They do have Hajj. Hajj and Umrah, and then they have the purification of the heart. They have the purification of the heart after that. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. There are no questions. Let me just get the zakat slides. Okay. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, bab zakat. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So he says, وَأَمَّا الزَّكَاةُ وَهِيَ أربع أركان هو رابع أركان الإسلام فيجب على المسلم على معرفة أنواع الأموال الواجبة فيها وهي النعم والنقدان والتجارة والركاز والمعدن والمعشرات وهي الحبوب والثمار فلا زكاة فيما سوى النعم السائمة ويشترط الحول لها وكذلك يشترط للنقود والتجارة ويشترط في هذه الأنواع النساب أيضا كلام. So here he says zakat. Okay, so zakat generally means to increase. All right, zakat generally means to increase, and it is the definition of zakat is an-nima. An-nima means to, or nama means to increase. Lughatan nama wal tatahir. So there are two definitions of zakat. It is to increase and purification. So the language, the language will mean increase, right? It will mean purification. It is a language of zakat, right? Its legal definition, right? Its legal definition, or Sharia definition, is that which is taken as a portion of one's wealth according to specific characteristics or specific conditions. Right? So what has been taken? So ism lima yukhraju an malin aw badanin biniyah maqsusa liniyah maqsusa. Tamam. So that which is taken, right, from that which is given out right, from a person's wealth, right, from one's wealth or body, right? So if you're wondering what does it mean by body, right, it means that zakat fitrah. Okay, zakat fitrah is from your body, right, that you lived for the year. You have to give out a zakat on your body, right, according to specific characteristics and intentions. Okay. And zakat, right, there are two types of zakat, as you can see from definition. Right, the two types of zakat is that the zakat of wealth, zakat harta, right, zakat of wealth, and zakat fitrah, zakat of your body, right? That every Muslim must give out. Right? Zakat was made compulsory in the month of Sha'ban, in the same month, in the same year, right? That fasting was made compulsory in the second year of Hijrah, right? Because zakat was supposed to be given at the end of the first of Ramadan, or the first month of the first Ramadan that was fasted. Right? So the first Ramadan that the Muslims fasted, which was the second of Hijrah, that Ramadan itself, the Muslims were to give zakat at the end of that Ramadan. So every Ramadan, we will think of zakat fitrah. However, zakat of wealth, zakat harta, zakat of wealth, right? It is to be given depending on your hawl. It depends on your year, right? So when the year begin, and you go and count the year, right? Depending on when the year began for you. Okay, so he says here, zakat is the fourth pillar of Islam. Therefore, every Muslim must know the type of possession on which it is compulsory. Right? And these are, zakat is compulsory on a na'am, right? Number 71, na'am includes camels, sheep, and goats, and baqar, right? Camels, sheep, goats, and the only three types of animals, and cows or cattle. Cattle meaning includes cows and bulls. Right? So na'am wa hiya al-ibl wal-baqar wal-ghanam. It is camels, right? Ghanam, right? Sheep and goats, and baqar, which is cattle, so cow and bull, right? So and they are called na'am, because a lot of ni'mah comes from them, right? A lot, you can use their skin for leather, you can use their milk, eat their food, and so on. All right. And the commentary on the zakat for these animals, right, is quite extensive. Okay, it's quite extensive, right? Which I will mention inshallah next week lah. So I will mention in passing, but I will not write it down, because most people will not be. I mean, most people who are here in this class, right, you will not be. I mean, I doubt that anyone here will be involved with goats and camels and cows and cattle. And if you are involved in these animals, right, then, or if you own these animals, then you have to go and learn the zakat of these animals. For Singaporeans, most of us, like in especially in the city life, right, the zakat that we are involved in will be silver and gold, which is money, and naqad and money, trade goods, tijara. Okay, tijara also is part of our zakat. Other than that, we don't actually have zakat. I mean, we don't actually have to give out zakat harta. Other than that, we don't actually mine silver and gold, right? Nor are we farmers over crops. But if someone does buy land overseas or something like that, then you own crops, right? You own crops, you're a farmer over crops, then you have to go and learn the zakat. Okay, so no other animal you need to give zakat on. Right? So if you can have like 100,000 rabbits, if you want, right? Have a whole lot of rabbits on, in your property, on your farm, right? If those rabbits are not for tijara, you're just keeping rabbits, or if you have a whole lot of chickens everywhere, chicken, and you're just keeping them, just keeping them, it's not tijara, but you're just keeping them, right? Then there is no zakat at all on these animals. Right? The only animals that we have zakat on are camels, sheep and goats, and cattle. So the only animals that have zakat on them. Right? And this is basically you're saying that you're keeping these animals, just keeping them. Right? So it's not tijara also. Right? It's not tijara. Right? So if somebody was to be breeding chickens for tijara, right? So then their zakat will be under zakat tijara. They have to do under tijara. Similarly, with plants like crops, right? So crops, the only crops that have zakat on them are crops that are that are staple food. Right? They're staple foods like wheat, barley, and so on, right? And the only fruits that have zakat on them are dates and grapes, because these fruits can last for a long time. You can dry up the dates, and you can dry up the grapes to become raisins. So these fruits can last for a long time. So the only fruit that you have zakat on them is dates and grapes. So even if you have like a whole lot of apples, that you have hundreds and thousands of tons of apples, apples are not zakatable. They're not zakat wealth, unless again your apples fall under tijara. Apples, you actually have your apples and you buy and sell your apples. Right? So if it's under tijara, then zakat of tijara. right? But if let's say someone has an orchid, or full of fruits in this orchid, and it's just for them, and there's no tijara. So even if you have lots of fruits on this in their orchids, there is no zakat on them unless these fruits are dates or grapes. Okay, wheat or barley and the like, right? So the nisab for the money is okay. So that is the one on the livestock. I will just flash later on next week some of the details of livestock and life zakat, because basically it can be Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Basically, it can be complicated lah. Because, like, for example, for the camel, like the first 5 camels, if you have 5 camels or more, then you must give out 1 goat, right, in zakat, and the goat must be 1 year old. You have 25 camels, and you must give uh uh then you must give 1 camel, right? 25 camels, 1 camel. If you have 30 camels and 40 camels and 60 camels and 70 camels and so on, and there are all these rulings lah, and then for the goat, for the sheep is every 40. No, for a sheep is 40 sheep, then 121, then 201, 400, and 500, and so on. Later on, I will do next week lah. Next week I'll go through all these numbers just for ilmu, just to increase in knowledge, for the sake of knowledge, but probably never practice it. Right? I mean, for me, I learned this a long time ago, but up till today, there is no practice lah. No practice in the sense that we don't own these things, and nor has anybody ever asked me the question for their goats and camels. So I've never handled it at all also, and nor have I done it for myself. So it's all theory knowledge, right? But the practical part of it, when it comes to goats and camels and sheep and cows and plants, unless you have family, overseas and they own farms, especially Indonesia, Malaysia, that kind of thing, or Philippines, or Thailand, they own farms, right? And then they might have to ask you lah of their zakat, if they ever ask you. Okay, so the first one is livestock. Second one is gold and silver. Okay, this is where we are affected. Okay, gold and silver. So our paper money today, the money that we use, our paper money, it falls under gold and silver. Like, why is it that our money falls under gold and silver? Because it is the paper money is basically representative of the gold and silver that is backed by them. Right, so that our dollar is backed by gold and silver. Right, so in the past they used to have gold and silver, and they would trade, and they would exchange gold and silver to show value of things. And but for us, what is being used is no longer gold and silver, but it is money. Right, so our money, which is why at the same time, when you want to calculate zakat of savings, you need to lump together the value of your savings, right, in your bank account or wherever it is. You must lump together the overall value of your savings together with the value of any gold or silver that you keep in your home, that you keep as treasure, right? So the gold and silver kept in the home, right? The gold and silver kept in the home, you only pay zakat on this gold and silver if you are keeping these gold and silver as treasure, meaning that you think to yourself, if you are in need in the future, there is always the option of selling the gold and silver in your house, right, to get money. Right? So basically, you're keeping it as treasure. As treasure you have to pass down into your inheritors, as opposed to people who are keeping gold and silver for decoration. Right, so they have a gold necklace, they have a silver bangles, and so on. It's more of a zina, decoration of the body. It's more of jewelry, and they have no intention that these things are like treasure. They have no intention that it's treasure. I know that in our society they will say, wear it at least once a year, and they have to pay zakat on it. Right, the issue is not about wearing or not wearing it. The issue is, what is the niyat behind it? What is the intention behind these possessions? If the intention is to keep wealth in the house, right, then they are zakatable even if you wear them, right? Because you intend to keep them as wealth, right? An investment. right? So for example, you have a lot of money, you went to the goldsmith, you bought a whole load of gold necklaces, and bracelets. And it's all like pure gold, the highest end gold. You bought all of them, you brought it home. Right. So this kind of gold, obviously your intention is to place your savings in the form of gold. Right? So you're keeping your wealth in the form of gold. So even if you were to wear it once a year, your niyat is not that you bought this, for jewelry, but you bought it to keep it as a treasure. Is different, eh? So if someone were to go out and buy like a ring and it's gold, right, and they buy it because it's pretty, it's nice, or the husband buys for the wife, it's a gift, right? And there is no intention of selling this ring, to get wealth from it or nothing whatsoever. No, it's just a gift that I own, something that is part of my property, and it's not money to me. It's not money, but it's my property. So that in that case, that the zakat is not on this particular gold or silver, but usually you will wear it lah. You will wear it at least once in the year, right? Because I mean, you shouldn't be keeping things for an entire year and not use them. Right? That is a disease, to keep things for an entire year and not use them. May Allah protect us and forgive us. Okay, so for example, and inshallah, I'll give a few more case studies. But for example, for the gold and silver, right? So if let's say I have in my bank $7,000 savings, for example, $7,000 in my bank savings. In my home, right, I have maybe $500 worth of gold and silver that I have bought, and I keep it for its value. I keep the gold and silver for its value because I see it as money, right? Okay, so now my savings must be added. So if I say, for example, like if I say the nisab is 7,300, for example, the nisab. So I look at my bank account, I see, you know what, it's been 7,000 the entire year, didn't move. 7,000 for the whole year, it was been 7,000. The nisab is 7,300, right? So I'm just short of nisab. I have not gone past the nisab. But the fact of the matter is, my house itself has $500 worth of gold in my house, and $500 worth of gold, right? So what I need to do is actually add the worth of the gold to my savings to see all together how much money I have, right? So if I add the $500, worth of gold in my house to my savings, I have 7,500, and that is above the nisab. If this amount was constant through the year, then I must go and pay zakat. I must go and pay zakat. So most people are negligent of, right, in this. Right. So naqadan is gold and silver, right? Doesn't matter whether this gold and silver has been made into a coin or not. Right? As long as you have gold and silver, so it can be in the form of jewelry as well, right? This for naqadan, right? So for naqadan, and inshallah, I will just go through all the zakat goods now, and next week I'll go to all the conditions for each and every one of them, inshallah. All right. After gold and silver, you have the trade goods, tijara. So tijara is the wealth of your tijara, right? And tijara is different from possessions because and treasure, right? Because tijara, you have all this stuff in your house or in your shop, and you want to sell them, right? That is the biggest difference. So the biggest difference in all these things is just niyat. The niyat is what makes it tijara. The niyat is what makes it wealth. The niyat is what makes it, property and so on, right? It goes back to the niyat of a person, right? So the intention of a person, right? So in tijara, right, if I acquire, right, for example, let's say, a family member passes away, for example, my grandfather passes away, and my grandfather left behind like maybe 500 different books. I have so many books in my house, right? He left behind the books. So I inherited from my grandfather. Right? So now these books are my possession. Okay, if I were to make intention right now, I want to sell these books and get some profit, right? Because I got them for free. It was inheritance. And I want to sell this book and get some profit. Right. So the moment I intend, right, to begin my tijara, right, to sell the books, my year has begun. The financial year has begun. The moment you begin to intend that the goods are to be to go through tijara, right? For you to go through buying and selling of businesses. Okay, so so the year begins then. So maybe for example, the first of Rajab, I got some property, and I said to myself, I want to sell this. right? Or I bought a lot of clothing from Indonesia, and when it arrived, I said to myself, I want to sell this. So my financial year has begun. Okay, through the financial year, I don't care about nisab at all. Don't care to monitor at all. The only time you care about a nisab for tijara, right, for trade, is at the end of the year. At the end of the year, I must check the value of my stock, and the value will be the selling price, not cost price, but selling price. How much I sell them at. So at my shop, for example, I sell clothes. I must see how much I sell these clothes at, right? And then count all together, is the value of my tijara more than the nisab? The nisab will be the nisab of gold and silver, same thing, eh? Is it more? If it's more, then give out in zakat, right? 2.5%. If it's not more, then okay, there's no zakat on this person. Okay. Now, okay, then for buried treasure, right? This is if someone were to find buried treasure, lah. But the buried treasure will be treasure that was there from before Islamic time. Because if it was Islamic time, then it will go to Baitul Mal, right? And that the buried treasure is found on a land that does not belong to anyone. Right? Because if the land belongs to someone, then the owner of the land owns the treasure. Okay, if you find treasure lah, so treasure, the zakat is 1/5. It's a lot, eh? And the treasure zakat is 1/5 of the wealth of treasure. It's not a lot technically, because you got the treasure for free. Right, treasure is free. You just got it for free. So taking away 1/5 of the treasure is not a lot at all, because the treasure came to you free in the first place. Right. So it is 1/5 given out immediately. There is no howl. There is no full year of holding a treasure, whatsoever. Immediately give out 1/5 of the treasure in zakat. For gold and silver mines, so again going to the raw material, and to mine. Mining means to take the materials as at the place where Allah created them. Gold and silver, wherever Allah placed them. So if you were to mine gold and silver, then the zakat is 2.5%, but immediate. So the moment you mine the gold and silver, you check the nisab. You check the value of the gold and the silver next to the nisab. If it's more than nisab, then you're going to have to pay zakat 2.5%. Okay, mu'asharat will be plants, There are seed crops and fruits. And there is no zakat on animal other livestock grazing and on public land. Inshallah, I will go through all of this next week, inshallah. Okay, next week I'll go through all the sharat, all the shurut of zakat, inshallah. Are there any questions? Any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, we will stop there for today. Wassallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. الفاتحة أن الله يرزقنا علما نافعا وعملا خالصا مستعين ودلالة على الهدى ويسر به قبل النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم وإلى أرواح معالمنا ومشايخنا وذوي الحق علينا وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان في خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن